In the therapy room, boundaries are non-negotiable. It's one of the first things we talk about, and it's how safety gets created. In leadership, we often treat boundaries like a personality flaw. That disconnect is costing us, our teams, and our companies much more than we realize. When I think about boundaries, it's one of the first things we do in therapy, and they create safety. They don't limit healing. They actually provide the space for healing to happen. We need to know what the parameters are. We need to know that yes means yes and no means no. The same thing applies to leadership. It makes clear roles, it gives predictable access, it creates consistent expectations, and that makes it easier for our teams and our organizations and our customers to actually know and rely on us, because just as I teach this to clients, I also try to utilize this as a leader myself, both with my team and with other business owners that I work with. When we create these boundaries and we create this consistency, then people in our lives know what to expect. They know how we're going to react. They know when we're going to react. They know what's going to happen. When boundaries are missing, people don't feel free. They don't feel like la-di-da, things are great. They more often than not feel anxious. They feel like they don't know where the guardrails are. And that is actually more anxiety invoking because they don't know what the parameters are for them to be operating within. What I've noticed is that most leaders actually avoid boundaries because they confuse them with being really rigid and being very stuck in like a concrete box. Boundaries are guardrails. They're not concrete boots that are not allowing somebody to move. When I think about clinically, containment and us providing containment for our clients actually expands our clients' capacity. It helps people know exactly where and how they can operate and have fun within those parameters. It decreases anxiety so they can focus on the other stuff. When we shift this into leadership spaces and with our teams, it does the same thing. Teams actually operate better when they know what's theirs to own, what's yours to own, where decisions live, and who is making what decision within what time frame. Boundaries don't shrink systems. They actually stabilize them. When I think about inconsistency and lack of boundaries, in therapy, the inconsistency often destabilizes the client. If I, as a therapist, am showing up for my session with my client and I am chronically 5 minutes late or 5 minutes early, or I'm going over by 10 minutes, or I'm going over by 30 minutes, or I'm going under, that inconsistency is going to destabilize my client because they're not going to know what to expect. Within leadership, the inconsistency destabilizes your team. This is something that I've had to learn personally, and I'm still learning how to make sure that I incorporate these boundaries on a regular basis with my team. Examples of like boundary wishy-washiness in leadership would be things like saying yes and then resenting it. How many times have we done that? I would be the first one to admit that that is me. Being overly available without providing clarity. Yeah, you can contact me anytime. I'm always available to you, However, oh, by the way, I'm spending time with my family this weekend. I'm offline. Or you can contact me whenever between the hours of 9 to 5, but outside of those hours, I'm offline. As leaders, especially with startups or in the beginning, we are available 24/7 to our teams. And I understand that because I am very much in that space as well. However, we still have to provide clarity around what that looks like for our teams. Things like expressing vague expectations, which is then followed by disappointment. These are the things that need to be clearly communicated and spelled out so that everyone knows and is on the same page. Otherwise, interpretation of what is said and what is left wide open causes so much anxiety and apprehension within our teams, and then disappointment and resentment from us as leaders. And nobody wants to live in that space. It's a really crappy space to live. One of the key things that I talk about with my team on a regular basis is that our clients need reliability. It is a core value for me and for us as an organization. My team, your team, they need the same thing. They don't need constant access, but they do need reliability from us as leaders. They need to know that, oh, when I contact you, if it's within these hours, you typically get back to me within X amount of time. Or if you don't have time to fully look over whatever it is that I'm proposing, you'll let me know and go, hey, I'll get back to you this week. And then we follow through. We actually follow through on the boundaries that we set. If we don't follow through on the boundaries that we set, we are now teaching people, whether that's in our personal life, in our professional life, with our teams, that we don't actually mean what we say. If we say, oh, you can't contact me after 5, and then the team consistently contacts you after 5, and you always respond, you are now negating exactly what you told them previously. Because they go, oh, well, they didn't actually mean it. Teams don't need constant access, but they do need reliability. Anxiety rises when people don't know what to expect. Anxiety is not a motivational problem. We often think that it is. It's more often than not a containment problem. When we as leaders avoid boundaries, we outsource the regulation to the system. When we do that, the system unfortunately pays the price. When I think about the leaders in my life, they were not always the people in positions of authority. They were often the ones who checked in on me consistently, offered clarity around roles, expectations, insight, and coaching around next steps. They were the silent leaders. They were the ones who were the boots on the ground, connecting with the team because they cared about them, not because they wanted to lead them all, but because they genuinely cared about the well-being of each person within their team, within their dynamic, within their circle. It reminds me over and over again that authority isn't actually dominance. Authority is clarity plus the consistency. When I look at the people in my life who have been leaders, they have really clearly depicted that consistency and that clarity, and that has given them a position and a voice of authority in my life. When I think about the culture that I'm trying to build and that we are trying to build as a team, boundaries are the culture. Leaders who avoid boundaries are often fearful of disappointing others. They are, afraid of being perceived as harsh or losing people's approval and not being liked. However, when I transfer that into my clinical lens, I know that avoidance always shows up somewhere else. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're actually direction. One of the areas that I've had to really navigate with managing a startup, growing a team really quickly, is what do these boundaries look like in real life? For me, for my team, clients, how do we navigate this? Because there's no playbook. And I've had to figure it out trial and error and what my capacity is and what my team's capacity is. And we still have to figure it out on a regular basis. And the boundaries shift still to this day, but we try to communicate it as much as we possibly can so we know where we're standing. When I think about some of the ways that this shows up for me in real life is around time, right? Being available versus being dependable. Am I available 24/7? Or am I dependable with my team where I go, hey, if you do X or you reach out to me about X, I will respond within however many hours or whatever this looks like. When I think about decision making, who decides what and where and when and how? What does this look like? The emotional load is astronomically high as a leader. And if you're a leader, if you've done a startup, if you are in the process of starting it, whether or not you have kind of gone beyond that initial growth and you are now kind of in this thriving space, the emotional load is very, very high. And us as leaders absorb everything instead of structuring it. And that's one of the areas that we need to figure out and we need to navigate, that instead of absorbing everything and taking everything on, what can we actually put into systems, processes, and actually start to delegate? The other one I see really often is growth. I work with other business owners who are therapists, who are working on growing their practices, and they want to grow. And they want to grow for whatever reason, whatever their motivation is. And I've seen it over and over again where they say yes to expansion and yes to growth before the capacity exists. Capacity in this case can look like structure, foundation, policies and procedures, funnels, delegation, all types of things, whether that's for themselves, their actual clinic that they're starting or practice that they're starting or growing, their therapist capacity, in all sorts of different ways. And when we say yes to growth before that capacity exists, we're setting ourselves and our team up for failure. We want to make sure that we really expand and work with their capacity to then actually increase it. And as it increases, then we have space for that growth to come. When I think about tying it back to therapy, because I often hold these two lenses, one is the therapy lens and one is this leadership business lens. I think about my clients and my clients that come in wanting to work through things, and I wouldn't process trauma without preparing them for it. People often just want to get to it. They show up in my office and they're like, okay, Jules, let's just do this. I want to work through this shit and then be done with it. Okay. They want to work through the yucky stuff because they don't want to deal with it anymore. Totally get that. However, when we just jump into it, it's not being kind or compassionate to themselves because they don't have the capacity yet to be able to look at whatever it may be from a grounded, self-compassion, kindness, non-judgmental lens. If we rush that process, it actually causes more harm than good. When I think about my team, when I think about leadership deserves the same type of discipline. Our teams deserve the same type of discipline. Them being prepared and provided the resources to be able to actually build their capacity and take on greater responsibility or different roles without us just throwing them in there, expecting them to swim. If I think about it clinically, I wouldn't call it clinical flexibility if it destabilizes a client. So why would I call it leadership flexibility if it destabilizes our team? Boundaries at the core are not about protecting you. We often think that it is, but it's not about protecting you. They're about protecting the work, the people, the system. Therapy teaches us that safety precedes growth. We have to feel safe mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually for us to be able to actually look around and go, oh, I'm ready to grow now. And then we're able to actually learn and implement and start to do all these amazing things. But when we are sitting in this space of being chronically hypervigilant, always looking around, looking for threats, looking for risks, we can't absorb new things. We can't learn new things. And if we can't learn new things, we can't grow in healthy ways and in the trajectory that we want. And so therapy teaches us that safety actually precedes growth. And leadership really is no different. And so one of the questions that I ask myself is, where am I avoiding a boundary? Not because it's unclear necessarily, but maybe because it's uncomfortable. And uncomfortable things we typically like to avoid. When I think about leadership, it isn't about being more available. It's about being more contained. And boundaries are how safety actually gets built.